Views expressed are solely those of the speaker and not necessarily those of Paltalk.com, AVM Software, or its advertisers.
News Talk is online. News Talk Online is a production of Paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users on demand on iTunes and on YouTube. And on my blog, GaryBaumgarten.com, where you are encouraged to post your comments whether you agree with yours truly or not. No retribution. And thanks to our good friends at CRN Digital Talk Radio, we're syndicated to an additional 12 million households. I am your host, Gary Baumgarten. I welcome you to the show. Let me just tell you a couple of programming notes before we just delve into this, because there's so many people already waiting in queue to talk about the main issue at hand. And before we get to that, there are two things in this very, very busy news day that I want to address. Then we'll get to the main issue. The programming notes is that tomorrow at 5 o'clock New York time, right here on News Talk Online on Paltalk.com, nationally syndicated radio talk show host Rusty Humphreys will be here. We've invited Rusty onto my show because Rusty has had a fatwa issued against him. And the people who issued the fatwa want him dead, D-E-A-D, for the things that he has said on his show. Not kidding, right here in the United States of America. Isn't that something? We're going to talk about another fatwa, but it wasn't a fatwa from the Muslims that happened just yesterday at a church. I also want to remind you that this coming Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, right here in the radio and TV section of Paltalk.com, live, the 23rd annual world-famous Red Bank Jazz and Blues Festival from opening note to last note, right here on Paltalk.com, our gift to you and to the musicians, because it's all about the music, isn't it? Now, we hear about a fatwa against Rusty Humphreys. Well, we also hear that Dr. George Tiller, the late-term abortionist, was killed in Wichita while ushering at his church yesterday. You know, I am not a supporter of late-term abortions, but I'm not a supporter of killing, and I find it extremely despicable that somebody who probably professes to be, quote, pro-life, close quote, would take another individual's life in the cause of saving lives. Not the way we do things here in the United States. It's very disheartening. And by the way, it's not just disheartening to the pro-choice community. Many of my friends who are in the anti-abortion or pro-life community are very dismayed about what happened. And every single mainstream pro-life organization has issued statements of condemnation, and I salute them for doing that. The other issue that I just want to touch on, this is what defines chutzpah, ladies and gentlemen. AIG, remember, they got bailed out by you and me, the taxpayers, to the tune of tens of billions of dollars. Now wants millions of dollars that it had donated to a foundation returned, including a city meals program here in New York, money that was already allocated to the September 11th memorial that is going to be built if they ever get the job done at the World Trade Center site. They want it back. Guess why they want it back? To pay bonuses to the executives of AIG. Ladies and gentlemen, if you wanted to know what the term chutzpah means, you've just gotten the definition. Shame, shame, shame on AIG, the greedy bastards. Okay, story that I bring to the top of the list today is not the GM bankruptcy. I mean, that's almost anticlimactic. We knew this was coming. But the fact that United Nations inspectors entered the Gaza today through Egypt to investigate allegations of war crimes committed by the Israelis. Now, I'm not a supporter of war crimes, but I'm also not a supporter of a double standard when it comes to this. Do war crimes only apply to nation states and not to, for example, Hamas? Is Israel guilty potentially of war crimes for attacking Hamas because Hamas is shooting at Israel from population centers? So Israel has attacked population centers and killed civilians? Or is Hamas guilty of a war crime for shooting those missiles from mosques and hospitals and homes, knowing full well that it's forcing the Israelis either to continue to sustain their attacks or retaliate and get them and kill civilians as well? It's a very difficult situation, ladies and gentlemen. What would you do in a situation like that if you had to make the decision? By the way, Hamas is targeting population bases in Israel when they're shooting missiles, rockets over. But okay, I guess that's permissible. Now, supposedly the inspectors are going to be investigating to see whether Hamas participated in any war crimes. How many people in those neighborhoods are going to come out and say to those UN inspectors, guess what? They are responsible for what happened to us, the Hamas. Of course they're not going to say that. Of course not. Israel is not cooperating with this investigation, accounting for their entering Gaza through Egypt rather than through Israel. I'm not so sure I support that decision by the Israeli government to not cooperate, but they pretty much had it with the United Nations, given the fact that the United Nations resolutions are constantly attacking Israel. Not very well balanced, so they are not particularly supportive of the United Nations involvement in all of this. It's really tough. By the way, let's talk about white phosphorus for a second before we open it up to your calls. White phosphorus can be used to light up a battlefield, cannot be used on civilian populations. The Palestinians claim that they were victimized by white phosphorus attacks. The Israelis deny it. In fact, the Israelis claim that the Palestinians who were burned by fellow Palestinians. Hopefully, when all is said and done, these United Nations inspectors will get to the truth. Frankly, I am not confident that they will, despite what are probably very good intentions. Cassandra in the United Kingdom. Cassandra, welcome to News Talk Online on Paltalk.com.
Oh, thank you, Gary. Well, here we are again with the United Nations. It's a pity that the United Nations actually don't do the job that they're employed to do, but seem to have a total and utter vendetta on Israel. I mean, for example, they're not doing anything about